Hey, I'd like to thank you for this comment, and I'm gonna go into a little bit more explanation. So I was at the pet store getting crickets and whatever for my reptiles, and I happened to go into the bird room because I was like, maybe I'll get a finch or something. I don't know. I've had finches, and I was like, maybe I'll get a finch. I don't know. So I went in to look or whatever, and I see these two fairly large birds sitting in a very small parakeet cage. And I'm talking, they could barely move, parakeet cage, okay? And they were cute, and I was like, man, they're really in a tiny little cage, you know. I feel really bad. This is kind of like what happened with Pepper. When I was at the flea market, did not plan on getting a dog, and then Pepper was sitting there with no food, no water, in 85-degree heat, and I ended up bringing Pepper home. Unfortunately, as you guys know, I am like this bleeding heart when it comes to animals. Kind of like the time somebody called me about a ferret, and I came home with another dog with the ferret. Or the time they told me they were going to dump the turtles into the creek, and I got turtles, rehabbed them into another home. You guys know that I am like this bleeding heart for animals, and it bites me more times than I care to count, but unfortunately, that's just who I am. So I see these birds, and they're in this tiny cage, and they were practically giving them away because they were in this cage. They didn't look right. And they were skittish, so skittish. Like, you can't really go near them. Whoever had them didn't work with them, which I understand. A lot of people don't work with birds or whatever. And super skittish in this tiny cage. They're freaking out. People are walking by them. They're just terrified. So I do what I do and bring them home. They didn't have a big cage available at the moment, and they were like, well, they're pigeons. They need a lot of floor space. Like, all right. They're like, here, buy this, you know. And it was one of those big, gigantic guinea pig cages with the flat bottom, whatever, and I bring them home, and I realize literally by the next day, this is not going to fly. So I look up how big a pigeon cage needs to be, and it said X amount by X amount, and I'm like, all right. So I go online, and I find a cage bigger than the allotted space that they said, and but it happens to be a flight cage, which they don't necessarily need, but I mean, if they want to stretch their wings and fly a little bit, because my girl, she is constantly flapping her wings and whatnot. So I figured, maybe she wants to exercise a little bit. I don't know. Point is, the floor space is what they need, and I can work with the floor space. And it just happens to be a flight cage because, that's what it is. A lot of people put them in, as the girl said, XXL dog crates. Here's the deal. I have 8 dogs, and what I'm not going to do is put them in a dog crate on the floor where my dogs are going to upset them. They're already skittish. They're already anxious. And so my thing was, I'm getting the size cage I need up off the floor. It happens to be a flight cage, but it's going to meet all the other criteria. And this is better than what they're in. They were originally in a tiny parakeet cage at the store. They were in a almost accurate size cage, but there's no room. She flaps her wings and loses her mind with the height of this. So I'd rather there be too much height space and enough floor space than not. Moving them super quick, it was on numerous pages. It said, try not to touch the egg. And so I let them go because by the time I found out there was an egg, I felt bad. And I figured it wasn't going to hatch. I figured I'll just let it do its whole little broody thing and get rid of the egg when it's done. Didn't really think it was going to hatch. And so, then they actually smashed the other egg. So I figured that was just a bad egg, whatever. Let them sit on it and get them some fake eggs for next time. And didn't want to move them while this was happening for obvious reasons. They're already skittish. And they'd only been in my house maybe 8 days, and I didn't want to move them already. So I let them sit on the egg, and the egg hatched. And then it said, try not to really handle them, like, right off the bat. But unless it's an emergency, don't move it too far from its original place. And the cage is much bigger and like 4 rooms away, which I could have brought the other cage out and moved them in there. But the other thing was, with it being an actual bird cage, the slats are, the baby is going to fall through. And until it has bigger feet that it can walk on the bottom of a bird cage, I'm not going to have the baby fall through the grates, get stuck, bust its face, whatever. So I wanted to wait until the baby got bigger. Right now they're doing okay in their cage. You know, they're doing well. And as soon as the baby gets bigger, I'm gonna move it to the bigger cage. Somebody asked, you know, why didn't you have the cage prepared before you brought them home? It was a whim. I saw these birds, I felt bad, like I always do, and did the best I could with what I had, and then tried to fix it later. The cage took like 7 days to get here. Day like 5 or 6, like right before the cage got here, they laid the egg. And, you know, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's just be real. I don't. I'm reading up. I'm getting people's opinions. Somebody was very gracious in my comments, being very super helpful, giving me suggestions. And I, super appreciate it because pigeons aren't a super normal bird to have. Most people have finches or canaries or parakeets or the big, African greys and cockatoos and stuff. Pigeons are the nuisance bird that fly around. So even when I look stuff up on them, domesticated pigeons, I can't figure out what toys they want because nobody really says it. The only thing that they care about is a mirror. They love their mirror. I don't want them to be bored. I'm trying to give them enrichment so they don't lose their mind, but they're not super interested in anything. And then I'm like, okay, well, now what do I do? So this is a learning experience. And I'm also, doing a little diary of what the baby bird looks like every single day, because pigeons will actually end up being full grown and look just like their parents in 28 days. Like, it goes from being in an egg this big to a normal sized pigeon in 28 days. I watched a video. It was wild. This is an absolute learning experience. And is it smart to buy animals on a whim that you know nothing about? No. Did it stop me? No. Because I'm always going to feel bad. I'm always going to try. I am Captain Save-A-Ho. And if you know me, you know this. This is how I end up with all these animals, because I always feel bad and I need to stop it. And I said I was going to stop it, but I saw these cute birds smushed into a cage, freaked out, and did what I normally do. So you can lambaste me all you want. You can tell me what a horrible human being I am because I tried to save birds smushed in a cage. But you know what? You're not going to hurt my feelings because I know who I am. I know where my heart is. And here's the deal. Pigeons survive in Chicago on fries and pizza and zip tie nests on ledges, being freaking thrown at rocks with and whatever. I'm pretty sure that my birds that are getting tons of different varieties of food, toys they may or may not play with, and a nice warm place to sleep, I'm pretty sure they're doing pretty good. Is it ideal? Is it perfect? Am I great? No. But am I doing better than if they were surviving outside? Yeah. So if you want to be a jerk in my comments, you're just going to get blocked. Not everybody is perfect. Not everybody is going to do everything 100% by the book. There's not a book that I have found. Everybody, and another thing is, every page you go to is different. Every different page. Give them grit, don't give them grit. Give them vegetables, don't give them vegetables. Put them in a tall cage, put them in a short cage. Like, everybody does it different with these type birds, and everybody who does one thing one way just puts down everybody that does it a different way. And it's a learning experience. They're happy. They're doing good. They're doing fine. So if you don't like my journey, don't watch it, because there's lots of people who are enjoying this journey as it is. And, it really sucked because I was spot cleaning the cage for the first 2 weeks because I didn't want to disrupt. I didn't want them flying around, stepping on the baby. So I finally got to get in there, really give it a nice cleaning. They're doing good. He's moving around a lot. They're getting less skittish with me being in the cage more, so they're getting less skittish. And hopefully, overall, everything ends up okay. Never claim to be perfect. Just know that I have a big heart, and you can like it, lump it, or leave it. It doesn't matter to me.